The 2023 season is basically in the rearview mirror, so what better time to look at potential 2024 breakouts than right now? Let's get into it. We got 4 deep dives and then 3 tight end candidates for 2024. So to kick it off, we have none other than Drake London. And if you've watched us long enough, you're probably thinking, are we doing this again? Are we really about to do this again? Absolutely. We are 100% going to do this again with Drake London. The situation this year really just was abysmal. It took all of the excitement away from Kyle Pitts, who's been injured, and it took all the excitement away from Drake London because the passing volume is just not where we want it to be. The talent is, though, and that is why I will continue to buy Drake London. I will continue to tout him as a potential breakout candidate because when you look at what he does when he gets the volume, when the situation is correct, he is better than most wide receivers in the NFL. When you just look at his games where he has seen 8+ targets over his career, so rookie season and this year. Keep in mind, that's with Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota. His 17-game pace is 170 targets, 119 receptions, and 1,600 yards. If he is in an offense where he is seeing 140 to 150 targets, which is not out of the question given his target share, he is a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. We just saw it last week. He puts up over 170 yards, catches a 2-point conversion. The guy was basically an all-around superstar. And this is what happens when you can actually get the ball to him, or you make it a point to feature him in the offense. Arthur Smith has not done that. And I hope to God Arthur Smith does not survive, because if well, that's dark. I hope he does not survive as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. And if he does, I'll probably pull back on the Drake London breakout just a little bit because it's really going to depend on the head coach, the play calling, and the quarterback under center. If they get a Justin Fields, if they get a Kirk Cousins, wheels up. Wheels up for Drake London. He's going to be a superstar. I mean, we're seeing it with DJ Moore and Fields. We're seeing it with Justin Jefferson and even, honestly, Jordan Addison when Jefferson was out with Kirk Cousins. Drake London's going to go nuts. He's going to be a dirt cheap buy low option. He's a player that I think could be or should be ranked inside of the top 10 dynasty wide receivers by this time next year. The second breakout candidate, again, I think that one's a little bit chalky, but I'm going to do it anyways. It's Anthony Richardson. We got 2 full games of Anthony Richardson. Only 2. And he finishes as a top 5 quarterback in both games. He puts up 96 rushing yards. He scores 5 touchdowns. Anthony Richardson has freakish upside. This was always the argument. Even if the passing does not come along right away, or ever, you're going to get 3 to 4 years of elite fantasy upside. If you get any uptick in passing, right? If he's solid with Michael Pittman, it's going to be really damn hard to not have him as a, ranked as a top 3 quarterback beyond 2024, basically every season. He is Cam Newton. He's Justin Fields. He's Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson. There's another. Every quarterback that wins with rushing before they develop their passing skills, that is basically what Anthony Richardson is on track to be. And if there's any way I can trade for him, and realistically it's going to be damn near impossible, but if there's any way I can get him on my roster, I am going to do everything I can because what's coming next is just going to be fantastic. Looking at our third player, we're going to a running back here, and we're going to talk about Breece Hall. Now, Breece Hall currently the RB16 on the season. He's had just, he hasn't lived up to the hype, or has he, in a way? What you typically see with guys coming off of ACL tears is a down year. You see flashes of greatness, you see inconsistency. That is exactly what Breece Hall has shown us. But when we look at some other high value, high talent, high athleticism players that have torn their ACLs over the last couple of years, look at the splits from year 1 after ACL tear to year 2. You can look at Saquon Barkley just a couple years back. 11.4 points per game the year after he tore his ACL. Last season, 17.6 points per game. Year 2, he was back to being Saquon Barkley. You can even look at Dalvin Cook as well, right? 13.8 points per game the year after he tears his ACL. 20.85 points per game year 2 after his ACL tear. Basically was an absolute league winner and a superstar as people started to fade him, thinking he wasn't going to regain form from his rookie season. That's what Breece Hall has in front of him. Next season could be the best version of Breece Hall that we've seen. And I get, the rushing has been abysmal. The rushing has been absolutely terrible. Well, that will happen when you're missing your starting star guard in Vera Tucker. You're missing DeJuan Brown. You're missing several guys along the offensive line who have been in and out of the lineup, not healthy, or put on IR early in the season. And then the other piece that we talked about, if you watched our stash video, we mentioned Jeremy Ruckert as a guy who is interesting long-term. You get Aaron Rodgers back next year. So even if you're just kind of playing Breece Hall in a one-year lens in 2024, you should have Aaron Rodgers. That's going to give you significantly more opportunities in the red zone. You're going to be a higher scoring offense than you are with Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle and whoever else they decide to throw under center this year. Ultimately, things are going to get much, much better for Breece Hall. And he's kind of saved himself with receiving value. That's going to be there next year too. And hopefully you get the uptick in rushing, the uptick in scoring. All of these things are what make Breece Hall an interesting buy low in Dynasty for a contending roster in 2024. Our fourth breakout, we're going back to wide receiver. And again, I think it's a chalky pick, but that's fine because I believe in it. And it's Rashee Rice. And realistically, Rice is in the middle of his breakout right now. I think in 2024, you likely get a much more consistent version of what we've seen since the bye week, right? Since the bye, averaging 16.4 points per game. On the season, he only has a 16% target share, but again, that is going to continue to climb as we close out the year. I think on the season, he may end up around 18 to 20%. He is going to be a prime candidate for everybody as a breakout. And the thing is, I think that's the correct move. So we're still going to talk about it here. The only concern with Rashee Rice is what do they do in the offseason to address the rest of the wide receiver room? If they bring in a Devontae Adams, if they bring in a Mike Evans, Rashee Rice is going to take a hit. He just will, because he is not as dynamic or as explosive as those guys are. And the other factor that's kind of floating in the background, does Travis Kelce retire? If he retires, then Rice's ceiling bounces back up no matter who they bring in at wide receiver, because there's just a gap in the offense where targets have to go. So they're looking for a true one on the outside, and I think they have found it right now in Rashee Rice. It's just how much do they supplement his role? So all of these pieces are at play here. But again, Rashee Rice is going to be a chalky pick, and I'm in. I am buying into the hype because what we've seen so far has been so good, it's hard to ignore. And to close it out, I just want to quickly talk on the state of tight end in fantasy or in Dynasty specifically, because there are several breakout candidates. And for the first time in a long time, several breakout candidates I think are all going to hit. You can look at Dalton Kincaid, Sam Laporta, Trey McBride. Those three right now are the future of the tight end position in Dynasty. If I have any of the three, I am thrilled. I'm doing everything I can to get one of them on my roster, and here I've learned it's very, very difficult to do so if you don't already have them. All of them are in a spot to just get better. I don't think we have seen the best or the ceiling of any of the three. I mean, Dalton Kincaid, his role is only going to grow as a rookie tight end. That's a given. Sam Laporta, his role will grow in year two, right? He's a rookie tight end, and he's already flashed elite levels of talent. And then you have Trey McBride, who is year two, but they just cut Zach Ertz because they've decided Trey McBride's good enough. It doesn't matter. And you have Kyler Murray long-term, right? His games with Kyler have basically solidified him as, I think, maybe a top 5 tight end in Dynasty, or at least in that tier, because it's starting to get busy. And that's crazy to say in Dynasty because it's traditionally such a top-heavy position. But that middle tier is starting to fill. Then we get to throw in Brock Bowers into the mix. Maybe Kyle Pitts gets healthy next year. Tight end for the first time in a long time is fun. It's a good place to be, and it is thanks to these three right now making a huge push in 2023. 2024 is going to be spectacular for all three of them. I can't just single out one, so we'll take them all. All right, guys, that's all we got for you. Again, if you have questions, you have comments, drop it down below. Like the video, do all the YouTube stuff. As always, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.